Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession is about to enter the hall. We will be singing the national anthem. The words are on page 11 of the program. Please now stand for the academic procession and remain standing for the national anthem.
I, Catherine Branson, Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, declare open this congregation convened for the purpose of presenting degrees. Distinguished guests, parents, friends, relatives, most importantly, graduates, welcome to this University of Adelaide graduation ceremony. Gana Miana, Gana Yata, Nadlu Thambandi. In English, we recognise we're on Ghana's land. We acknowledge the Ghana people, past and present, the original custodians of the Adelaide Plains, and thus of the land on which the university's campuses are built. We acknowledge the Ghana people's ongoing spiritual connection to this beautiful land. Graduates, your graduation is an event in which you can be very proud, as I know your family and friends are proud. The university itself is very proud to see you here today celebrating success. Graduation Day is an opportunity for you to reflect, perhaps thinking back on what brought you here and thinking about where your future may take you. Wherever that future is, our hope is that what you've learned here, the skills you have acquired, will stand you in good stead, not just in future employment, but in every aspect of your future life. I now call on the Vice-Chancellor and President, Professor Peter Hoy, to present the candidate for an honorary degree.
Chancellor, it gives me great pleasure to present to you an outstanding candidate for admission to the honorary degree of Doctor of Arts honoris causa, Dr. Peter David Goldsworthy, AM. Award-winning novelist and poet, Dr. Goldsworthy is acknowledged today not only for his enormous creative contribution to literature, but also for his support for the creative arts in South Australia and his leadership in arts administration. A graduate in medicine from the University of Adelaide, he spent some years working in drug and alcohol rehabilitation services before his great passion for writing saw him increasingly divide his time between general practice and the arts. Author of 9 novels, 8 published collections of poetry, 7 collections of short stories, as well as novellas, film scripts, and opera libretti, Dr. Goldsworthy's work has earned acclaim across his 40-year career. His 1989 novel Maestro was voted one of the top 40 Australian books of all time by the Australian Authors Society, and his novels have sold more than 400,000 copies in Australia. His 1995 novel Wish was also recently reissued in the Text Publishing Text Classic series, and in 2019 he published a new work, Minotaur. His work has been widely translated and adapted for the stage. His novel Honk If You're Jesus was adapted for the stage by the State Theatre of South Australia, winning the 2006 Ruby Award for Best New Work. An adaptation of his 1999 novella, Jesus Wants Me for Sunbeam, by Steve Rogers, won the 2015 inaugural Lysicritus Prize, and his short story, The Kiss, was adapted for stage by the Belvoir Street Theatre and has been made into a multi-award-winning film by Ashley Page. Since 1979, Dr. Goldsworthy's work has won many awards, including the Western Australian Sesquicentenary Literary Prize, the Fellowship of Australian Writers and Elder Poetry Award, the South Australian Government Biennial Literature Prize, the Australian Bicentennial Literary Prize for Poetry, the Poetry Australia Literary Award, and the 2004 Fellowship of Australian Writers Christina Steed Award, and he has been shortlisted for more, both in Australia and internationally. His collaboration with Richard Mills on the libretto for the opera Batavia won the 2002 Robert Helpman Awards for Best Opera and Best New Australian Work, and the 2002 Green Room Award for Special Creative Achievement. Understanding the importance of support for the arts, Dr. Goldsworthy has taken an active role in arts administration, serving as chair of the Literature Board of Australia Council and chair of the State Library of South Australia for many years. He's also been an active, high-profile member of the J.M. Coetzee Centre for Creative Practice at the University of Adelaide. He's also served as an adjunct professor of creative writing at this university. Dr. Goldsworthy's contribution to literature as an author and poet, and his work for the wider arts community was acknowledged in 2010 when he was made a member of the Order of Australia. Today we celebrate his creativity and literary talent and his contribution to the arts community, but also his support for this university in its efforts to nurture new generations of creative thinkers and artists. Chancellor, I'm pleased to present to you Dr. Peter David Goldsworthy, Bachelor of Medicine, member of the Order of Australia, for admission to the honorary degree of Doctor of Arts, honoris causa.
Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's graduation orator. It is, of course, Dr. Peter David Goldsworthy, AM. Thank you, Peter.
The Honourable Catherine Branson, ACQC Chancellor, Professor Peter Hoy, AC, Vice Chancellor and President, distinguished guests, members of staff, but especially graduates and proud families. Look, I don't know if it's a tautology to say that it's an honour to receive an honorary degree, but I'm not about to split hairs. It's a great honour and thank you very much. I feel especially honoured and lucky to be able to speak to the graduates tonight, 46 years after I was sitting here where you are. Congratulations on getting there, even more so after the really added difficulty or complication of this last year. But you should never give a poet a microphone and a captive audience. That's a dangerous combination. We could be here all night. I'll try to refrain from reading poems. Because the custom on this occasion, I know, is to offer some sage advice as you move out into the wider world. But there are two problems with that in my case. One is that the older I get, the less I seem to know, or the less assured I seem to be about giving advice. My children and my wife are here, and they'd certainly back that up. I'm having trouble giving advice to myself. Secondly, when I was sitting down there, all those years ago, being given advice from up here, I didn't listen to a word. I was too full of myself to listen to older and so-called wiser people. Well, they were to blame for everything that was wrong in the world. This was the late 60s. No one could tell me anything. It was about that age, well, 19, a bit earlier maybe, that I was lucky enough, along with a couple of other angry young local poets, to give a poetry reading at the Adelaide Festival with the legendary American beat poet Allen Ginsberg. Well, I was so full of myself that I thought he was the lucky one. I would have been much more assured giving you advice at that age. When I arrived from Darwin High School, age 17, to study medicine and knew everything. Well, I had read basically read the Darwin Town Library the year before. It was a cool place to be. I mean it was uncool in the high school sense of the word to spend all your days in a library, but it was literally the coolest place in Darwin in the wet season. Besides, I was used to being uncool. I was a science nerd who spent my earlier teenage years reading and writing science fiction and making various involuntary attempts on my own life in my backyard laboratory. One book I did read was the autobiography of the American writer Gertrude Stein that year. It was actually called the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, who was her lifelong partner, but Stein wrote it. Before she moved to Paris to write books, Stein studied medicine at Johns Hopkins Medical School in Baltimore. She also studied philosophy with one of the great philosophers of the day, William James. And the best story in that book was her account of the final philosophy exam, which took place on a beautiful summer day. Cooped up in the exam room, Stein wrote one sentence on her paper. It went something like this: "Dear Professor James, it's too nice a day to be doing philosophy exams. I'm going out into the sun." And she walked out. And when the results were posted, William James gave her the top distinction. Well, I guess he thought, what's philosophy for if not to teach us how to live? Or, as the Neo-Confucian philosopher Wang Yangming put it in the 16th century, to know and not to act is not yet to know. So it was another line I've always remembered. But in year 12, that story appealed to me no end. We were studying Shakespeare's Hamlet that year, and opportunity arose for me in the mid-year English exam. I don't remember the exact question about Hamlet. Hamlet's irresolution discussed 250 words or some such, but I do remember my answer. "Dear Mr. Clayson," I wrote, "Shakespeare was writing blood and splatter, sword-fighting entertainments for audiences who couldn't even read or write. He didn't intend there to be this kind of analysis." And with that, I slapped my pen down noisily and walked out into the sunshine. Not exactly expecting to get the top distinction, but not expecting to get the mark I did get, which was 0. And that was the mark I deserved, because I was wrong. Although, as usual, it was going to take a long time for me to realise that. The Darwin High School yearbook in 1968 actually has my ambition as poet and my probable destination as critic. If only I'd been more of a self-critic. Know thyself, as Socrates said. I just skipped a page here. You're just... When I'm watching people giving speeches, I'm always sort of thrilled when they get to I can see them get to the last... Still, get to that last page. We're not there yet. I didn't apply myself to medicine in those first years. I read a lot of philosophy, a lot of poetry, short story writers, although strangely some of them, like Stein herself, and my favourite poet John Keats, or my favourite short story Anton Chekhov, had actually also studied medicine. I goofed off the dissecting room for an entire semester of English 3 lectures on American poetry, sitting unenrolled and incognito in the back row next to a girl I liked, while the other 4 members of my ever-suffering anatomy team went on obligingly dissecting our assigned cadaver without me. But after I spent a month in intensive care at age 20, as a patient on the receiving end, I began to take medicine seriously. It also began to knock some sense into me, and some humility into me, useful humility. In my time in medical school, you got humiliated in public on ward rounds if you made a mistake. Well, the stakes were high. It's called thalamic learning. You remember things in the deepest emotion-saturated regions of your brain. Well, I was asking for it. On one ward round, I was carrying, rather pretentiously, a book of French poetry in the pocket of my white surgical smock. It was Arthur Rimbaud, I think. That's where my stethoscope should have been. When I gave the wrong answer to a question, the eminent consultant plucked the book out, read a few pages, then handed it back. "Who do you think you are?" he thundered. "Anton Chekhov?" I was just glad he didn't say it to me in French, because I didn't understand a word. I was trying to learn French by reading poetry. The science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke famously said that if the aliens were amongst us, their technology would be indistinguishable from magic. Maybe. I spent a bit of time in the new Royal Adelaide Hospital these last 2 years, as a patient again, not a doctor. And it sometimes seems to me like some starship has landed in North Terrace crammed with magical alien technology. Yet of course it's not magic. I mean, it's our magic, not the aliens, which is perhaps why it's not yet fairly distributed across the world. You've got a feeling that any aliens would be fairer than we are. It comes out of these magical but fallible jellies, in their hard, bony cases, the most complex structures we know of in the universe. Yet. And if it's a magic that continually questions itself, and through that improves itself. That's how knowledge progresses. That's how we progress. That's how human progress occurs. Relentless self-questioning. Medicine wants to know itself. Science wants to know itself in that Socratic sense. Just as those of you who have been here for the last few years have, I hope, emerged having many of your most precious beliefs questioned. You may emerge still believing them, but they will have been tested, tempered. My cancer has tempered me, I think. I call it the cancer finishing school. Not in the sense it's going to finish me off, or not just yet, but it's been a useful humbling, another one, and a school of hard knocks that has taught me a few lessons, perhaps. One I'll share with you. It taught me, or reminded me, that I'm very lucky. I've been very lucky having the Starship fall to Earth up the road here. I should count my blessings. In most of the countries I'd be dead, most of those other countries of the world. But I'm talking mostly, I guess, about the first luck we ever have. I mean, genetic luck, geographical luck, familial luck, the big birthright lottery, the biggest you can ever win or lose. Human inequality begins there at birth, and when we leave that messy starting gate, too often with immensely heavy handicaps. It's a terrible lottery to lose, and is massively globally unfair. So when we think of our luck and count our blessings, for example, the most recent lucky blessing of being in this country during this epidemic, we should remember this and act on it. For instance, we can easily delay our rollout and send the next few million vaccines to India. Which brings me back to Gertrude Stein, walking out of the philosophy exam and getting top distinction, but also to Socrates. We need to know ourselves and the world, as Socrates did, through endless questioning, endless scepticism. But we also need to arrive at conclusions at some stage and act on them. That sounds like a paradox, perhaps, and each of us will resolve that according to our temperaments. But I'm also going to leave you this one third thought. Between Socrates and Wang Yangming, that's where that territory I'm talking about is. The third thought is you've earned your achievements through a lot of hard work and hard thinking and sacrifices by yourselves and your families, I'm sure. But you're also very lucky ducks. All of us here are, at different degrees. And that's worth remembering. So thank you for doing me the honour of apparently listening. Right now, if I was sitting down there, I'd be like Gertrude Stein, saying it's too nice a day to be sitting down here listening to someone up there pontificate about philosophy. And there is the small matter of your degrees, which is the reason you came for. But I'm going to finish with one short poem, not one of mine, one of the great Alexandrian Greek poets, Constantine Cavafy, a famous poem, I think, called Ithaca, that perhaps many of you will know. This is Edmund Keeley, an American poet's translation. As you set out for Ithaca, Ithaca, of course, being the island in the Ionian Sea, Odysseus set out for the Trojan War and took 20 years and many adventures to return to. The story of the Odyssey, and the war. Ithaca. As you set out for Ithaca, hope your road is a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery. Man-eating giants, Cyclops, angry Poseidon, don't be afraid of them. You'll never find things like that on your way as long as you keep your thoughts raised high, as long as a rare excitement stirs your spirit and your body. Man-eating giants, Cyclops, wild Poseidon, you won't encounter them unless you bring them with you, inside you, unless your soul sets them up in front of you. Hope your road is a long one. May there be many summer mornings when, with what pleasure, what joy, you enter harbours you're seeing for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations to buy fine things, mother of pearl and coral, amber and ebony, sensual perfume of every kind, as many sensual perfumes as you can, and may you visit many Egyptian cities to learn and go on learning from their scholars. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for, but don't hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years, so you're old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you've gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvellous journey. Without her, you would not have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you'll have understood by then what these Ithacas mean. Thank you, and I wish you all a long and wonderful journey.
On behalf of the graduates and their families attending today's ceremony, I would like to thank Dr. Peter David Goldsworthy for his stimulating and inspiring address. We are honoured that you have taken the time to join us on this special day to share with us your thoughts and experiences. Your words of encouragement and advice are greatly appreciated. They remind us that education places upon each of us an enduring responsibility to make the best possible use of our talents and to contribute to the betterment of society in whatever way we can. So please join me in once again thanking Dr. Peter David Goldsworthy.
I will now receive the candidates for degrees. I call on the Vice-Chancellor and President.
Chancellor, I, Professor Peter Hoy, Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, certify to you and the whole university that the graduates who will be presented to you have all fulfilled the conditions prescribed for admission to the award for which they are so presented.
I, Catherine Branson, Chancellor of the University of Adelaide, by virtue of the power committed to me by the University, confirm that each graduate is admitted to the rank and privileges of a holder of the award in the University of Adelaide, for which they are so presented. I call on the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Professor Jenny Shaw, to present the graduates.
Chancellor, I, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Professor Jenny Shaw, present to you graduates from the Faculty of Arts. To the Diploma in Arts, Gregory John McPherson. Neil Hansford Ward. And Kayla Nicole Willisey. To the degree of Bachelor of Media, Cale Abrahamson. Taylor Jane Bardsley. Naja Barudi. Jasmine Josephine Birch. Fanuel Anthony Ball. Tristan Blade Castle. Olivia Sirocco. Andrew Charles DeWitt. Brianna Jane Dix Richards. Olivia Megan Duff. Georgia Rose Ferguson. Lillian Faith Foster. Lewis Addison Hatton. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Bethany Marie Hayden. Holly Freya Hendry Saunders. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Charlotte Margaret Mary Hogan. No Tien Tu Huyen. Kiara Courtney Jackson. Taylor Lee Jackson. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Tyson Jacquet. Reese Hayden Johnson. Sophie Annika Landau. Bronte Latham. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Shaylee Leach. Ashton Mairead Luke. Amelia Jane Mastro-Pasqua. Rachel Moore. Harrison Semedio Nelly. Mark Anthony Persico. Ethan Michael Quigley. Caitlin Jane Raj. Bradley John Schiller. Sharon Tilina Subasingu. Eugene Damien Philippe Sulio. Braden Sullivan. Olivia Bree Tonkin. Emily Joanna Tremaine. Emily Jade Underwood. Jessica Christine Van Pelt. Eloise Villas. Jake Wallace. Wong Haoyu. Holden Stewart Ward. Georgia Wastel. Cheryl Fung. Jackson Henry Wolfell. And Wu Xian. To the degree of Bachelor of Languages, Hakim William Bida. Brodie Christopher Dunn. Ella Leonie Leopardi. Victoria Lynn. Catherine Joy Ostman. Ellen Grace Prenser. Kate Samantha Pressler. Oscar Robertson. Liv Kelsey Romarate. Also receiving the degree of Bachelor of International Development, Leonard Shankela-Prey. And Erica Jessie Wysocka. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Media, Freya Jordan Langley. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Languages, Julie Nicolette Ross Spooner. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Arts, Dimitri Akers. Philip Argenio. Lily Atkinson. Jayanti Erin Brown. Lachlan James Dorian. Caitlin Jane Fox. Eleanor Fane Johnson Firth. Lara Junghart. Tamia Klaas. Stephen John Wolfgang Amadeus Martin. Caitlin Amy Merlin. Tali Skula Miller. Benjamin James Nichols. Owen Hector Dennis Nicholson. Lazarus Paniotou. Ashley Rathjen. Catherine Simons. Hamish Pradith Francis Tynan. And Ella Chiara Vallelonga. To the Graduate Diploma in Art History, Holly May Moorhead. To the degree of Master of Environmental Policy and Management, Roberta Jean-Marie Magoba. To the degree of Master of Arts, Curatorial and Museum Studies, Catherine Ann Needs. And Wong Mei Sung. To the degree of Master of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Their Glory Shall Not Be Blotted Out, the Acknowledgement of Indigenous First World War Service in Australian and New Zealand National Commemorations 1918 to 2019, Rachel Brigitte Keynes. For a thesis entitled Anglo-American Responses to German War Technology in World War II, Thomas Stephen East. For a thesis entitled Temporal Passage, Dynamic Experiences and the Bee Theory, Bridget Claire Everett. For a thesis entitled Narratives of Child Abduction in Nazi-Occupied Eastern Europe, Volume 1 Novella, Volume 2 Exegesis, Angela Evelyn Fawley. For a thesis entitled Volume 1 Tipping Points and Volume 2 Putting Together as an Art, A Writer's Guide to Intertextuality, the accompanying exegetical work, Travis Lucas. And for a thesis entitled Beyond Dualism, The Challenge for Feminist Theory, Rebecca Aroha Randall. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Fleecing the Pious, the Palmers Guild of Ludlow in the Central and North Welsh Marches, 1400 to 1530, Judith Louise Bailey. For a thesis entitled Hear the Lion Roar, Trade Unionism at General Motors Holdens in South Australia, 1930 to 1980, David Justin Chadwick. For a thesis entitled Lawson, Stowe, Prescott and the Mythos of the Outback Town, Peter Hugh Court. For a thesis entitled The Bounty of the Suburbs, Home Food Production and Preservation in Adelaide Suburban Yards, 1945 to 1995, Linda Allison Haynes. For a thesis entitled Media Portrayal of Ageing, a cross-cultural comparison of media discourses in Australia and Malaysia, Mohammed Asim Imran. For a thesis entitled Code Switching as an Index and Construct of Socio-Political Identity, the Case of the Druze, Christians and Muslims in Israel, Eve Afifa Kia. For a thesis entitled The Art of Selling Arts, Marketing Culture Using Digital Media at Fringe Arts Festivals, Amy Elizabeth Nankara. For a thesis entitled English Language Curriculum Reform at the National Level, a Case of Intentions and Realities in Vietnam, Tai Thao Vu. And for a thesis entitled Women, Piety and Patronage in Reformation England, circa 1530 to 1558, Stephanie Joan Thompson. Chancellor, this concludes the graduates from the Faculty of Arts.
Chancellor, I, Director of the Elder Conservatorium of Music, Professor Graham Kerner, present to you graduates from the Elder Conservatorium of Music. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Music, Sonic Arts, Alexander Roy Mader. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Music, Popular Music, Claire Ann Chiddleborough. And Emma Jane Knights. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Music, Musicology, Evan Allen Patton. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Music, Music Composition, Lauren Angelique McCormick. To the honours degree of Bachelor of Music, Classical Performance, Kate Yejin Huang. Henry Lawrence Miller. Hamish Andrew Netting. Lucille Alice Rattigan. William James Smith. And Yi Ying Shang. To the degree of Master of Music, Performance and Pedagogy, Wenxian Chao. Jia Shun Ding. And Mengyao Kong. To the degree of Master of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Singing the Beat, the application of melodic drumming approaches in a contemporary small jazz ensemble, Joshua John Baldwin. To the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for a thesis entitled Strings Can Swing, redefining the role of large string ensembles in the jazz context, Julian Peter Ferraretto. For a thesis entitled The Oboe Sings, translating bel canto song for the oboe, Charles Henry Klein. for a thesis entitled An Anatomy of Betrayal, Metaphor, Method and Meaning in the Opera Taverna by Peter Maxwell Davies, Simon John Lord. For a thesis entitled The Paganini Caprices, Their Techniques and Performance Problems, a study on 12 caprices with supporting video and audio recordings, Madeline Leah Melrose. For a thesis entitled Video Game Acoustics, Perception-Based Sound Design for Interactive Virtual Spaces, Benjamin Kim Probert. And for a thesis entitled A Creative Exploration of the Compositional Concept of Developing Variation, Portfolio of Compositions and Exegesis, Daniel John Schricker. Chancellor, this concludes the graduates from the Elder Conservatorium of Music and for this ceremony.
Chancellor, every year the university presents university medals to acknowledge the most outstanding graduates in each faculty who have completed a University of Adelaide bachelor's degree with honours or bachelor's degree of at least 4 years duration. The university medals are awarded to them for their consistent, outstanding performance across the whole of their undergraduate studies. I, Professor Peter Hoy, Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, present to you a recipient of the 2020 University Medal from the Faculty of Arts, Lily Atkinson. Chancellor, University Doctoral Research Medals are awarded to graduates who have completed outstanding research at doctoral level. This award is the premier award for doctoral candidates at the university. I, Professor Peter Hoy, Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of Adelaide, present to you recipients of the 2020 University Doctoral Research Medal. For research in the field of music, Madeline Leah Melrose. For research in the field of history, Stephanie Joan Thompson.
I'm very pleased now to present to you Julie Nicolette Rothspooner, who was presented this afternoon with the honours degree of Bachelor of Languages. Julie will now give the valedictory address on behalf of the cohorts of graduates who are presented with their awards today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we celebrate a milestone in our journey through life. The great American entrepreneur James Irvine expressed it so well when he said, "That diploma that you hold in your hands today is really just your learner's permit for the rest of your drive through life. Remember, you don't have to be smarter than the next person. All you have to do is be willing to work harder than the next person." I'm sure we can all relate to that. Speaking for myself, my time at Adelaide University has been hard work, but some of the most satisfying as well as the happiest time of my life. My university career has not been what one would usually expect. My early qualifications were all in the field of education at teachers' colleges. To many people back in those dark days, university was more important for boys. Girls were generally expected to get married and help increase the population instead. and you had to concentrate on a different kind of work for that. Thank goodness it's not like that anymore. However, I've always loved the ambience of the Adelaide University. When my father, a Rhodes Scholar from Tasmania, took up a professorship here when he came back from England in 1948 with his new family, I can remember wandering around these beautiful grounds and the old buildings, watching the university grow as I grew. So it seemed only natural to me that I would one day become a student here. It only took me a mere 5 decades to fulfill that ambition. It has perhaps been easier for me to face the challenge of university life and work being a mature-aged student, as with the years one develops a certain amount of self-confidence. But it's been great fun to share student life, to remember what it's like to be enthusiastic about everything, and to take up some old hobbies again, such as amateur dramatics. The University French Club gave me that chance and made it possible for me to play a role I had dreamed of playing all my life, that of Lady Bracknell, in The Importance of Being Earnest. Boy, what a challenge that was. But it enabled me to cross off a wish on my bucket list, and it gave me the impetus for my rather unusual honours project, which I found very satisfying, that of translating an English play into French. We can all be proud of our achievements at university. That's why we're here today. My love of languages and music, they often go together, decided my course of studies and provided me with some of my most memorable experiences, both amusing and profound. For example, the time a group of us in music put on a presentation of Scottish music, and we had to teach the staff and the audience how to dance a Scottish reel. That was fun, and boy, was that exhausting. Later, there were 2 memorable trips that I took overseas. A summer school to Granada in Spain, where I spent 4 weeks immersed in the language and culture of that wonderful country. For example, seeing the grave of Christopher Columbus and the rulers who had sent him on his journey, not to mention the splendours of the Alhambra Palace. And then the winter school in New Caledonia, where we learned how to cook French style. A few years later, I went to live in France for several years and completed a diploma in French cuisine. I would never have done that without my experience in New Caledonia, thanks to the university, which encouraged me to pursue this interest and to overcome the challenges involved. Apparently, I'm not a bad cook now either. On my return from France, I resumed my studies, majoring in French and Spanish, my 2 favourite languages, and sometimes, to the amusement of all, found myself mixing them up, speaking French in my Spanish presentations and vice versa. One exasperated lecturer said once, "Well, at least you didn't speak English." However, none of these happy memories and none of my achievements would have been possible, and no amount of hard work would have led to my successful result without the patience, encouragement, and goodwill of the professors and lecturers in the various departments which have guided my path, especially in French and Spanish. Indeed, I would never have completed my honours project without the unfailing support of the members of the French department, and I cannot thank them enough. I may have reached a milestone, as have we all in our studies, but it's not the end. I can look forward to sharing the knowledge and skills I have developed during my time here, as a teacher with the WEA, for example, or a school assistant. And who knows, maybe my journey here isn't over yet. So in conclusion, to my fellow graduates, I would like to quote Nora Ephron, writer, journalist, and filmmaker of my generation, who said, "Your education is a dress rehearsal for a life that is yours to lead." It's up to us to choose our road, and the most important choice you can make is to make the most of your life, whatever your age. I certainly have, and I still have some goals on my bucket list. It's not over yet. The great Mark Twain said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. In other words, don't stand still. explore, dream, discover. So go for it. Continue to explore, dream, and discover. Be confident in yourselves. You deserve to be. Your future is for you to shape. You'll never know what you're capable of until you try. So bonne chance. Good luck. I wish you all the best for a successful career, together with a happy and fulfilling life. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. It now gives me great pleasure to congratulate as a cohort all of those who have received their degrees today. Be proud of what you've worked to achieve, but remember those who supported you along the way. It'll be parents, friends, colleagues, and I'm confident also the fine staff of this university who have worked with you over the years. As graduates of the University of Adelaide, you are also its alumni and its ambassadors. Over the years since this university was established, its alumni have made enormous contributions to their communities in this country and all around the world. Today, you join this community of more than 147,000 alumni of this university who are located in more than 134 countries around the globe. We have 17 global alumni networks, including 8 international networks. I hope you'll give thought to joining one of these networks. Let me now thank the Mace Bearer, Stephanie, thank again the valedictorian, Julie, and thank also all of those who assisted in the organisation and running of today's ceremony. I ask now that all of the graduates remain seated, while I ask everybody else who comfortably can to stand and join with me in congratulating the graduates on their achievements. Would the audience please remain standing? And I ask the graduates now please to stand for the academic recession. Once the academic recession has left the hall, I ask our guests to please stay at their seats until the staff ask them to leave and help them leave in the way that will help keep us all COVID safe. I now declare this congregation adjourned.